So we've gotten to the part where we're going to be doing a little bit of design and not just talk about it. And in this exercise, you're presented with what a regular or an old-fashioned website maybe would look like. If you were to try to run it in a phone, it's not fun at all. You can't read much of it. I mean, this is probably a good website if you go and visit it, but when you try to translate it into a mobile device, it's unreadable. So what happens is that you basically have to relocate your assets in the website in different parts of your site and your mobile site, and you are going to be more dependent on a user interface and a user experience environment to get the guidance that the user needs to navigate. So you see the sample on the left. There is a lot of information on this website, and on the right, the after picture, you see that there's basically lots of navigation. We see that it's very readable as opposed to the one on the left, where it's basically the letters are so tiny that you would need a microscope to read them. On the right, however, we see that it's a button that's very clear and says, hey, if you want to share, there's an icon that represents the sharing action, one that has a phone for the call us option, and the menu is intuitive in that it says, hey, if you click here, something will happen, will follow, more things will open. For this exercise, what we'd like you to do is take a look at the eConnect website for the Dallas College District. If I click on it, you see that this one basically, I do believe it's already built with some mobile aspects in mind. But let's get it into play by creating an image that represents what it might look like if you were rebuilding this completely as a web application. And the assignment calls for the use of an image editor. If you have taken classes in digital imaging with us, with El Centro, maybe you've learned how to use Photoshop, or if you don't have access to Photoshop, I recommend that you use a free application called Photoea, Photoea.com. Pops up, you may be seeing some ads because that's how they make a little bit of money. Just to guide you through the basic steps that you would need to complete this exercise. Like I said, here we see the original site on the left and then a reimagining. Our site that we have to reimagine looks like this. Think about what they did on the left and the right for the before and after of this application. They took everything that was lots of text to just a few buttons. Our site already consists of only a few buttons. If you see when you hover on top, there's additional information that's to come. So like I said, this is already kind of built with mobile in mind. I'll return to the Photoea page and tell it to create a new document. I'll clicking on File, the top left, then creating a new project right there. And I have lots of options. You probably see social first. You see all these sizes for a Facebook page cover, Instagram story, stuff for print so that you can print posters, your photo cropping, screen, etc. We're interested in mobile. And in the assignment, I do mention that it can be 1080 by 1920 pixels. I do believe that it's iPhone 6, 7, and 8 right here. I'll click on that. This image, it tells me it's going to be at 401 pixels per inch, which is more than the standard 72 pixels. It's not still a very big file, but it's larger than some. And that's fine because we need a higher resolution for our mobile devices. I'm not going to pick any of the templates on the right because basically I want a blank file to start with. Once I selected the size, it's 1080 by 1920 at 401 pixels. With a white background that's readable, I'll click Create. Okay, so here's our basic canvas for the phone. If you have already looked at this page and see what kind of menus you have and how many buttons you're going to want, I recommend that you start with a piece of paper and sort of scope out what you would like this page to look like if it were a web application or even a mobile application. The basic tools that will help you will be this one, the rectangle select, and the text, which is this letter T right here. Let me show you how both of those will work. There's also this other one at the bottom. Right now it's only a rectangle. If I click and hold, I see that I can draw circles and lines and stuff and everything to sort of get a sketch going. I'm going to go back to the rectangle. The way that Photoshop and Photoea work is it's in layers. Currently I have a background layer. Imagine that this is a sheet of paper, of white paper that's there before us. There are more colors besides just black and white. You'll see that there is a red button and a black button below it. That's just basically the colors that the system has access to right now. If I want to create, for example, just sort of to replicate what's going on with this image, that there's going to be a banner on top. I don't think that you're going to be needing too big of a banner or have to replicate exactly what the banner looks like or the logo. We just need to sort of know where it's going to go. So not on this sheet of paper, not on this layer in the background. We're going to leave that one alone. I'm going to put what's a transparent layer on top of it. Imagine a piece of transparent paper, a cellophane, acetate on top of it. I will click this button that says New Layer, and now I have a layer called Layer 1. I know that I want to maybe for my project have a banner on top, so I'll double click on the word Layer 1 there and say that this is going to be the banner layer. I'll just call it banner by typing it. Once that is typed, I can use the tool that I selected, the rectangular select here, and click, hold down the mouse button and drag. Draw a rectangle, and I get these little dotted lines. It means there's a selection made. Inside of the selection I can add some color, and it's up to you whatever color you want to use. I would stick to one color right now since this is just a sample of what's coming. So to change the color, I talked about this below. I'll click on that and see how it's red. There's some basic colors below. You can mix any colors that you want. But I'm going to stick with, I don't know, I'll use this light blue. I think it's good. Click OK. And to add the color to this selection, I will use the edit button up here, edit, and tell it to fill. It's going to ask me fill it with what? Well, if I wanted to fill it with the foreground, this is the foreground color right here. The background color is black. I can switch them around if I want. I could also select another color if I wanted. Just say, I can use a background color instead, which is black. I can do a custom color or just use black and white. I'll stick with the foreground. The opacity will stay at 100. The blend mode stays as normal. Click OK, and now I have a button. How many buttons will you need? Decide how many buttons you're going to need for your redesign. How many this one has. If let's say that I wanted to sort of do something like this, there's at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttons and then 2 boxes on top, which are a little bit different. Let's stick with the fact that I have 5 buttons right here. And duplicate my original banner. I'll do this by right-clicking on the banner layer and say duplicate layer. This makes a copy. So right on top it's called banner copy. And I'll call this one button 1. And did anything change? Well, I have 2 layers, and you can see there's a little image in both of them. It tells me they're the same. This selection will bother me if it stays on, so I'll click on select and tell it to deselect. Now I will use my top tool, which is the move tool, and since I'm on the button 1 layer, anything that I grab and touch here will be moved. I will click, hold down the mouse button, and drag a little bit, and I'm right below where the banner is. So I'll let go, and now if I wanted to do a button that was kind of different, that looks a little bit like this, yeah, I could change the color, I can do lots of stuff, but I want to resize it. For Photoea, the easiest way to do that is to click on Transform Controls inside, once you're inside the button 1 or the layer that you want to work with, and these little handles can be clicked and dragged to resize. So now I have a smaller button. I'll press enter to accept my change, and I will turn off the transfer controls so that it goes back to sort of normal. Now I have this button 1, and I said that there's going to be maybe 5 buttons that I want to use. So I will duplicate this layer once, twice, 3 times, and then a 4th time will be the 5th button, right? So I have the original button, which is button 1, and then I will have, well, actually, yes, 1, 2, 3, 4 copies on top, so that's 5 total buttons. In order to spread these out, well, you need to be on the right place. You need to find where button 1 copy is, click there, and then drag. And if you hold down the shift key, it'll come down straight down. I'm going to go to copy 2, click there to be on that layer. Click and drag. I'm holding down the shift button again, and I'm bringing it down. Copy 3, same thing. Could I have done this as I was copying originally? Yes, I could have, and maybe that would have been a better idea. But anyway, I'm almost done with this. So now I have all these buttons. They're a little bit spread out, and you can go, as long as you're inside the right place for the buttons, change them. You could also do this. I'm clicking on copy 4, the very top one, pressing and holding the shift key, and then clicking on button 1. So see how all of these change color? They're darker now. It means they're all selected. 1, copy 2, 3, and 4. They're all selected. And there's a tool up here that's called equal gaps. Click on that, and then they're all equally separated. And because they're all selected, that means that I can move them all at the same time as well, which is pretty handy. So I'll move these below a little bit. And let's say that in the end, whatever your document is going to look like, you wanted to have a couple of buttons. It doesn't have to be necessarily everything that this has. Remember, you want to simplify it. So maybe you wanted to have different kinds of buttons. That's going to be up to you. It's your design. Let's say that I wanted a couple of round buttons. I'll click and hold the rectangle select. Click on ellipse so I can draw some circles. And I will hold down the mouse button and drag. I'm holding also the shift button so that it's a circle as opposed to an ellipse. I'll let go of the mouse button, and then that gives me a new selection. I need to make sure that I'm in an empty layer, so I'll click on the very top. Because if these move down, if you're in the middle, then it's like moving papers, the order around. So I want to be on the very top, and if I click on new layer, a new layer will appear at the very top. I'll double click on this layer, and call this round button, and fill it with the same color. Since I already have my selection, I'm already in a round button layer. I will say edit and fill, and OK, and now I have a round button that's full. Once again, the selection is on. Let's turn it off. Select and deselect. Control D would have also deselected. And then I'm going to right click on the round button, duplicate the layer, and move it to the right side, because maybe I wanted to have 2 buttons here. So here's the deal for this assignment. First of all, I kind of hope that you come up with a different design than this, and that you have different buttons, maybe use different colors, use different shapes, whatever makes more sense to you. When it's going to become really obvious of what your idea about this is when we start to put meaning to these buttons. I said that this was a banner. In my mind, that's what it's supposed to be, and then I have action buttons all the way down here. Now, I know that this is pretty high resolution that I'm using, so in order to make more sense out of these buttons, I need to put some labels on them, and that's when I'm going to use this key, the text key, the text tool, and click on that. It tells me that it's currently using Deja Vu Sans, pretty standard font. It's book, and the size is 24 points. I'm going to need something a little bit larger. I'd say I'm going to go with 80 for now, or 80 something, and click somewhere. I'm already on layer 1, so I'm at the very top. Using the text, click somewhere close to the button and start to type in whatever this is supposed to be. In this case, I said this is banner, and it's readable, and that's great. If I wanted to get another text layer, I'll just click on I clicked on layer 1 to sort of deselect what's going on with the banner. Clicking back on banner just so that I'm on the very top of the chain here, and then tell it to do the same thing I did with the buttons. Just duplicate the layer, make a copy, use the move key, the move tool over here to move that copy below. And this banner text, I can double click on the T, selects everything, and then I can say this is button 1. And then I could do the same motion again, right click, duplicate the layer, and move this one and call this one button 2. I just double clicked on everything, and then I can select the number 1 and change it to the number 2. However many buttons or whatever your elements are, maybe you have a background that you want to highlight. Don't use it here, but maybe use a different color. Then, if you have additional elements, by all means, keep on copying your text or typing new text so that it's there. If it becomes too crowded, remember, we're going for a cleaner look. We don't want it to look like this. We want it to be more similar to this. It's readable, it's usable. I can imagine holding this with one hand and just using my thumb to get around it. But get your design going and get it going in Photoea or Photoshop or whatever you have access to. If you're using Photoea and you're done with you have all the labels, you have all the buttons, you have all the colors you want, you can click on File and tell it to save as PSD. PSD is Photoshop document, and here it's telling me, well, I have another folder open. This is for Web 2. And since this is my Google Drive, I'll click on My Drive just so that I know that I'm at the root level, and then I'm going to click on New Folder. And here I want to create a new folder for this class. This is ArtV2470, so I'll call it that, ArtV-2470. That creates the folder. I'll double click on the folder, and then here is where I want to put my stuff. This is called New Project. Let's call it First Design. It's already got the PSD, and save. It downloads into my Google Drive, and now I can go back to the assignment. I'm going to make sure that I'm inside the assignment, clicking on it, on the numbered, and come all the way to the bottom, and in my submission, say browse my computer. And it takes me to my Google Drive, and I know that I don't want IMET2415. Instead, I want RV2470. That's a poster, or rather, I'm sorry, that's the folder I created. So click on it. Here's my first assign. Click on that to select it. Open. And when I hit submit, it will upload the file to be turned in. Well, it will with you. I can't click it there because it'll give me an error. But that's how you create a quick overview of a design with buttons and text, and save it onto your Google Drive, and finally how you upload it into eCampus. Best of luck. Thank you.